Ray, for what you've already indicated to us here. Ray Power with us right the way through until 3 o'clock. Ray, just with all that in mind, and we talk about verbalisation, we talk about what you do as a coach at whatever level, and the development within the team of an individual, and these still very much part of your philosophy and what you glean from lots of other people and put down in a really easy to read and understand way here is dealing with different social backgrounds and dealing with different abilities of not just of their physical skills and what have you, but how you get it across to those within the group that you need to at any one time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coaching, certainly at youth level, is becoming more and more centred around each and every individual. Traditionally, football or team sports, it was the team. There's no I in team was the phrase. If I asked Danny to go play left back,
there is a me though.
Him to go. Yes, exactly. So that's exactly where we're circling back to.
Yeah.
But there was this kind of expectation that you do whatever for the team, and that's fine as an ethos. But when you're talking about developing footballers, at what point are we just developing teams, or are we trying to develop each and every player? So that's become almost embedded, certainly in my work and in the work of a lot of the academies around the country, is that each player would have a development plan. Each player would have certain goals or certain action points that they need to address. So some of them might be weaknesses in their game. Some of them might be strengths that they're trying to get better, and so on. Now, those things, you alluded to them earlier, that they generally come in four corners, as the FA will put it, so that there'll be technical, tactical stuff, there'll be physical, there'll be social, or there'll be psychological. And so working with the player around all those things that all kind of end up mixed in one pot is very, very important, because as the two boys will know, by the time you end up on the verge of the pro game, you're on your own. You're on your own in front of that first team manager, or you're retained, or you're released, or whatever it might be, and your career becomes, you are an individual amongst the team. So it's there's certainly a me in it, and I'd be absolutely emphatic about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fascinating with that. Where we are at the moment, and obviously with the way that the game will be, as all walks of life will be by this coronavirus and COVID-19 as well, Ray, is that we're perhaps going to enter. We were talking to Carl Robinson earlier about they've had to remake their plans about even the youth guys that they were thinking of releasing, or perhaps those that might go on a little further and what have you. They've just not been given a full chance, and this sort of whole schooling and coaching and being part of a club may well have to be totally reset.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad Carl came at it from that angle, because it's easy to forget about we'll talk about whether the Premier League will finish and the Football League and what the non-league should do and so forth. That's being held up in many ways by the youngsters involved, and I think the estimate is there's about 10,000 academy kids around the country, not including those satellite centres and so on that Danny spoke about earlier. So we have to give them due consideration. There'll be a hell of a lot of stress around the country at the moment in those households. If you're especially an under-16 player or an under-18 player, and you've got it's not quite a contract, but if you've got an agreement that lasts until the end of this season, what happens next? What do I do to keep ticking over? What do I do to make sure we get in the manager's face? The logical thing and the human thing would just be give him time and let's see how all this plays out. And some, as Carl said as well, some will be nailed on for progress in the club, some will be released, but some will be 50-50. So I think in any walk of life, if we're human, if we're treating people as human beings, you would give that as much time as it needs.
Right, you're saying about the youngsters. Sorry, Mark, the youngsters here. I'm just talking about the younger age group here, and you said you've worked abroad and seen academies abroad as well. I just want to ask you about the level of coaching and players from the variety of countries that you've been at. How good is the British game?
I think it's got a lot better in the last probably 10 years, or maybe slightly less. I know Danny was involved in the commission and stuff like that when they were sort of rethinking the game here and how it's coached and all that. It is arguably as good as it gets at the moment. I know Germany are having a full rethink after their last World Cup, which England may well do in the coming years again. I was fortunate I've been fortunate enough to travel around to watch coaching sessions, and you know what, the easiest thing to do is to say, well, I wouldn't do that, or I'd do this, or it's so easy to pick apart other things. I spent 2 years in Africa, in Tanzania, where the coach education system is virtually non-existent, and we had to sort of develop coaches ourselves. The resources they have and the opportunity to learn is so much smaller, hence why they tend to import a lot of coaches as well, even for the national team. So I think England's in a really, really good place. I think Ireland, I spent some time in Ireland as well a couple of years ago around the FAI, and I know there's a lot going on there sort of off the pitch, but certainly on the pitch they've got problems, but they've got a direction they want to go in. And I think if everyone puts the game at the centre, the players and the game at the centre of what they're thinking, like they've done here in England with the DNA stuff, you end up with a better product. You end up with a better system.
What is your philosophy as well on mentoring players? If you've got to know one as a very early coach and you watch their development, of how much you should continue to play your part?
Yeah, I think relationships are so important. You know, when you're dealing with people, whether in your profession or anywhere else, you are dealing with people, and there's players that I would have coached over a decade ago that I still keep in touch in. There's ones that I don't, just because that's life. But I think a huge part of my role is to, and it happens from time to time because of social media now as well, where someone will contact me and say, look, I've got this opportunity to go here, what do you think? And I think it's absolutely my role to chip in with some honest feedback. I'm doing a lot of, just on the side as well, I'm doing a lot of mentoring of coaches as well through sort of platform that I have on Twitter, in terms of, again, that individual development of coaches, and trying to reach out to as many coaches as I can across the world to help in terms of their journey. So I think we all like to have someone to call when we have a decision to make or we have a problem. So I think that's important in football.
It's been a fascinating hour. We just haven't had enough time. It's something I know that perhaps we will come back at some stage, and we'll invite you back as well, Ray, to tell us more about that. But just in a few seconds, finally, not just reading the whole of this book, Coaching Youth Football, and knowing all the different things. Communication still is the art, isn't it, and the key to this?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a really important skill set to have and to develop. Beyond the verbal stuff as well. I think the new wave of coaches, if we can call them that, since you mentioned Jose Mourinho earlier, that has become such an important skill. And it's done. You look at the best coaches out there at the moment. They have a way of getting into players, and those ways are huge and varied. But listen, it's one of the absolute essentials to coach effectively.
Ray Power, thank you very much indeed for joining us this hour. Ray's
much appreciated.
Book, Coaching Youth Football, Making the Ball Roll, a complete guide to youth football for the aspiring coach. And this one, Coaching Youth Football, what soccer coaches can learn from the professional